What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Zachary Reality. We are here with a very special guest from the recent season of Claim to Fame, Jerrica,
Yeah.
also known as Monet.
Monet.
Monet's your middle name, right?
Yeah, Monet's my middle name. Yeah.
So that's why you decided to change your name because you were worried people would know who you are potentially.
Yeah, because my dad's name is Jerry, and then my name is Jerrica, obviously. And I was like, oh no, we have the same initials. I don't want it to come up at all. So I just said, let me change my name to my middle name and see what happens to spice it up.
Yeah, I was talking to Jada a few weeks ago, and she said that she wanted to change
Hmm.
it to Jane because like the JA sounded familiar. So is that kind of why you chose Monet? Just because you kind of like it's already your middle name?
Yeah, but no one actually calls me by that at all. So that was actually really difficult. There was times in the house people would call me and there was a slight delay. Only
Mm.
person that knew that my name wasn't Monet was Shane because I was talking about myself one time and I said I referred to myself as Jay. And then she was like, girl, your name's not Monet. I said, you're right. But she didn't tell anyone. So that was good.
So now are people like coming up to you and calling you Monet, and you're just getting used to it now?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I got stopped yesterday at the airport and this lady, she was so nice and she was like, are you Monet? And I'm like, yes, that's me. I just have to say yes.
No, it was one of the biggest shocks of the finale when you revealed your real name. And I felt the same way with
Yeah.
Jada too. I'm like, wait, what? Because we're so used to like knowing you as Monet. Like I watched
I
every
know.
episode. So, and you made it all the way to the end. So I was just like,
Yes,
I'm meeting a
I
new
know.
person.
I know. That was my favorite part. I was like, yes, I could talk about my dad. But I was like, guys, guess what?
Yeah,
My
I
name's
know.
Jerrica. And everybody was so shocked. Everyone.
Yeah, I
It was
love that.
nice.
You brought up Shane. I felt like you guys were such a dynamic duo and you had such a solid
Mhm.
friendship. She went out way too early, but I almost feel
I
like it
know.
was the best thing for your game because you guys were so close, and that's kind of when you branched off as like an individual game player. Is that kind of how
Mhm.
you felt? Like it was almost like bittersweet because then you could focus on like the goal, or what was that kind of like?
I was definitely sad she left. I thought we played better in numbers. I mean, we all kind of
True.
agreed like that, we got close to the end. We knew we had to take each other out, obviously. So, I was sad because she was my biggest connection in the house. Like I loved her. We got to hang out all the time. She was my roommate.
Mm.
So we were definitely the closest. So I missed her because we would talk all the time. But um we just kind of already made that pact. Like, okay, listen, if we make it this far, we know that we have to take each other out. And that's okay. We know it's a game,
Hmm.
so I did want her to stay longer. And
Yeah, me
it didn't
too.
really affect my gameplay because we played well together. We strategized. So you need people to play that game. I know people keep saying it's like individual, but I definitely needed people to play for
Yeah, because
sure.
it did come down to like alliances a lot of times because
It did.
certain people didn't want to put certain people up in the situation, in the guessing situation.
Yeah.
So like you got to just know who you can trust. And you had a really close alliance with Gabriel, so much so that you protected him.
Hmm.
But that was crazy at the end. You played so good when you were trying to convince Chris and Carson that Gabriel was somebody else. So talk to
I
me a little bit about
know.
how that came to mind.
I realized I was like, okay, we're at the bottom four. Like I have to, or the top four. I'm like, I have to keep this one to myself. So, but I think the only mistake I made is I definitely told Gabriel that I knew who he was
Mm.
because I was just so excited. I was like, oh my goodness, our celebrity relatives like play like are in a show together. Like this is so crazy. We're a lot closer than we think. Um, but when I saw that Chris and Carson were trying to get me to help them when we weren't really a close alliance the whole time, so I'm like, wait, are you guys
Hmm.
using me? So I felt a little used. So I said, you know what, let me keep this one to myself. And I knew in that moment that it wasn't canon. The moment where I go, T-Pain has a lot of kids,
Hmm.
I knew it wasn't T-Pain.
Well,
I knew
how many celebrities have 10 kids? I feel like that was a really easy
it
clue,
was hard. Yeah.
and no one can figure it out. And I feel like Chris played such a good game, but the biggest problem is that at the end he could not figure you or Gabriel out, and that is
Okay,
the only two people he needed to figure out. What
yeah.
was it like playing with Chris and trying to get him out each week?
Oh my God, it was so intense. Absolutely adore Chris, by the way. Like we ended up getting closer towards the end when there was like a lot less people in the house. And he
Yeah.
is so funny. Like he would have me in tears. I thought he was hilarious. I just thought it was so crazy we could not figure him out every week. And I was just really determined. I was like, I had to figure him out. I pulled his clue.
Hmm.
it's only up to me to really, really figure this out. I knew I wanted to figure him out early on in the game, and he lasted so long, and people were willing to guess him. And it felt so good at the end to be like, Donny Osmond, because I'm like, I had this clue
Hmm.
so early on. Like, so
That was
it
such
was
a
good.
moment when
So,
you got him out because he was up 3 times. So like the fact that you were the
I
one
know.
that was able to get Chris out, and then Gabriel still ended up winning, but you were the one that figured it out, right? Gabriel didn't figure it
I
out.
know. So Gabe and I did that like role playing 70s thing,
Mhm.
and he definitely mentioned Donny Osmond in that space. But I did
Okay.
give him his props. I said, you know what? That might be a good one. So I held on to it in my brain. But then we were playing that last game. I saw that lunchbox. And I'm
Mhm.
like, all those times I watched VH1, this is the 70s, this is the 80s. I'm like, that lunchbox is Donny Osmond and Marie. So I knew that's when it like really like solidified it for me. Like it was thrown, the idea was thrown around, but when I saw the lunchbox with their faces like scraped out, I was like, yes, I know who this is.
Oh, because one of the biggest things
Yeah.
the fans were saying online is that no one could guess Donny Osmond because no one knows who he is. But you're
Yeah.
confirming that you actually knew who he was.
Yeah, I do know who he is.
Yeah, yeah,
I definitely watched that season of Dancing with the Stars, but that I had to be about like 16 maybe when that season was out. So
yeah.
it was a while ago and I didn't remember when they gave me that clue. I was like, well, Dancing with the Stars, season 9. They're on season, apparently, I read all the comments. They're on season
36.
32 or 36 or something like that. So that was a while ago, but I definitely did see that season. But I definitely knew who Donny Osmond was. And when the name circulated and from Gabe, I started to look at Chris differently because I saw it in his face.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh man, he's been looking at me the whole time. This is Donny Osmond's kid.
Yeah, I know Charlie D'Amelio won last season. I couldn't tell you who won all the
Oh
other
yeah.
ones, but
I think Zendaya won one, I think. I
yeah, she
think.
did. She did. But like Survivor is my game, so I can
I
name
love
every player
Survivor.
that won.
So I'm not a huge Survivor fan, but growing up, I was obsessed with the real world.
Mm.
So I was just like, this is like the real world was like games. So they know they have like the challenge I think the games or whatever for real world. I didn't really get into those, but the regular real world, I loved it. So I was like, oh, I'm in the real world. It's like adult camp. But I just get
Hmm.
to play games and be competitive. So that was really what was pushing me through. I was so competitive.
You
Like I'm like,
slayed
I
at the
have to play.
challenges.
Yeah,
Like
thanks.
every challenge, especially towards the end, you were killing it the last few. I was like, I really thought that you were gonna like come up and take it at the end. It could have gone so many different
I
ways,
know.
but like
I
obviously,
know.
like Gabriel won, so of course we're happy for him. Were you just you have to be
Yeah,
happy for him. You can't like be bitter, right?
I was. Yeah, I was so happy for him. And we played a really good game together. So I was just overall like, you know what? It's good. I made peace with it. I felt good because I knew who he was. So I'm like, okay, I accomplished something. Like I didn't make it to the end not knowing anyone. Like I knew who he was. I knew who Chris was. I was okay, I feel accomplished. Second place is cool. Second
Hmm.
place is cool.
What did you think of the way the ending rules worked with like everyone coming back and then Gabriel having so much power because he won that challenge?
Yeah. When I think about how it ended, I do think I'm gonna say I thought it was a little unfair because no one gave me any extra information,
Yeah, yeah.
but everybody else got extra information. So I'm like, it's not fair. But I already had knew who everyone was. I did ask around, like, what do you guys think? You saw in that circle where Carly was cracking me up saying Pete Buttigieg. But but like I was like, oh my God, they're not giving me anything. And then like Gabe and Chris get correct answers. The only thing that Chris didn't get was Nick Cannon, but I definitely was like, dang, this sucks. I didn't get anything, and watching it back, like they got the answers, the correct answers, and I had absolutely nothing. I had to go off what was already in my brain. So I think maybe next season, a little bit less of the people coming back and helping out too much.
Yeah, I liked everyone
But
coming back because I like seeing
I
everyone's
miss them.
faces because yeah, it
Yeah.
was such a fun cast. But I just didn't feel like they should like give you guys clues because then it felt like some people weren't
Yeah.
trying to say too much. But I thought it was crazy how Gabriel just had so much power because he won the last challenge. Like I
I
felt like
know.
it's almost like he won 2 challenges, and I didn't think that
Yeah.
was fair. I felt like you guys should have faced off in a different way.
But so yeah, that game was really tough too, and it was crazy because I was winning. I
Hmm.
will tell you, Carly and Carly, Shane, and JR were really kicking butt. They was there really to help me win.
Hmm.
I had a really good team. We were way ahead of them, and then it was just people started hiding the clues. It was 2 hours of hay digging We
Oh my
were
God.
exhausted. Dust was everywhere. I was getting scratched by the little hay or the straw, whatever. Um, so you just get exhausted. And at that point, when I saw Gabriel run up the hill, I was like, "Oh, forget it!" Like I knew it was happening, but I mean, yeah, it's tough though. Cause I'm like, I can't even imagine any other way for people to like end the game. Like, only other thing I could think of is maybe if the people who come back get to maybe
Yes.
vote for the guesser or
Yeah.
like, you know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like that,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing I could think about. I'm like, what, how else would they end the game?
That's
Like,
more fair because then they can be involved and it's a little bit more
yeah,
like up to
that,
chance. And it's like
that actually is good.
the relationships you built with the cast, like that comes back into play. So you better treat people right when you send them home.
I think that actually might be a good way to end the game. Okay, there we go. It's like broken.
Yeah, yeah, it's back
Broken
now.
up a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear
Okay,
me?
cool. Yeah, I think that actually, yeah, I hear you. I think that's a good way to end the game because then you like keep your relationships before people who guessed out, and they can vote
Mm-hmm.
who's the guesser, and it is up to chance, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's anybody's game.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
Okay.
yeah, that's a better way.
Can I ask you what you think about Hugo and Olivia? They are a claim to
Oh,
fame couple. They fell in love on the
I
show.
know. I
What's the
love
tea?
I love them. Oh my goodness. I had no clue what was going on in the house. I didn't know they liked each other in the house. I just heard like later on they were hanging out. And then I was like, wait a minute, they together? And I ran into them after the show was over and we met up in like New York. And they're like, we're together. I'm like, huh? Like, but I'm so excited for them. They're so adorable. They're actually two of my favorite people from the show too, for sure.
I
They
love
were
that.
great.
Now,
Yeah.
there were so many great competitors, but who do you think got out? Who do you think got robbed? Or who do you think got out too early? Or who do you think could have won if things were different?
I definitely think Olivia would have won. They played a great game
Mhm.
and they hid their celebrity relatives really well. So when we found out it was Jenny McCarthy, we were like, huh? We were nowhere near that close. So I definitely think Olivia would have made it pretty far or even won the game. Also, was sad that Jada ended up out earlier than I
Mm.
thought she would have also for sure, because she was a really good player too.
Yeah, but you know what
Um,
she said? She said that she couldn't go through with the game because she loved everyone too much, so she couldn't even play
yeah,
it anymore because her heart
yeah.
was too big. She couldn't.
She was. Oh, she had a big heart. So I know she was. I remember her saying that to me as well. She was just like, I was just tired of playing. This is too much. It is really intense. It is
Yeah.
really intense. It feels crazy because you can't really be yourself the whole time.
Mhm.
But tell the truth a little bit. I was like, I'm gonna just try to be.
Yeah.
Or if my lies, they felt like innocent. I was like, I'm just gonna like.
White
I don't want to be
lies.
like malicious, like little white lies. I don't want to go too crazy.
Whose
Yeah.
celebrity relative did you geek out over the most? Like, who are you a big fan of?
Well, definitely Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Definitely Eddie Murphy. And it was just
For
cool that Shane and I
yeah.
like linked up. Like we're like,
Hmm.
oh, and it just was we had no idea where we were from. And for us to link up automatically, that was really cool. Definitely Eddie Murphy for sure.
For me, it was Little Nas with JR. Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
so iconic. I love his
That
music.
was a big surprise too. A big surprise from JR. He
I'm
just loved his brother. So sweet.
I know. I want to ask about your dad, but last claim to fame question about I want to ask about playing with
Yeah.
Carson. I felt like she was such an underdog. She had a lot of people captivated too. She tricked people.
Hmm.
Like, what was it like playing amongst her?
I love Carson. We actually got really close in the house. It was just tough. Like I had just a longer alliance with Gabe, so
Hmm.
we ended up getting close towards the end because she ended up being my roommate after everybody else left. So
Hmm.
we ended up like hanging out in the bathroom, doing each other's hair. Like it was cute. Like we were hanging out, and she definitely was a good player for sure. She was really
Hmm.
strategic. She was good at tricking people. She was
Hmm.
good.
She was
Yeah,
fun
she
to
was like,
watch.
yeah, she was fun to watch. She was fun to be around, and we had a good time hanging out in the house for sure.
Yeah. So your dad was revealed as JB Smoove. So did you ever talk about like what you do? Because you said you worked with him a lot and you still work with him.
Yeah.
So did you ever kind of
Hmm.
share about that?
On the show, not really. But I do like business development and I do his tours. So I help with his like tour management and stuff. And it's nice because I grew up in New York with my mom, so it's nice to like be with my dad. I feel like I'm getting some time back. Like we get to hang out. I realize how similar we are when we're on tour. I'm like, this man is me, like,
Mhm.
or I'm him. Like it's just so interesting. So yeah, I get to do like the fun day-to-day stuff with him. He is just the best, the biggest inspiration. So fun to be around, so funny. Sometimes he embarrasses me because he's just my dad, but I also still think it's funny. I'm a laugh, but um, yeah, I'm just in a really good space, and it's been just like grateful to work alongside someone that's so amazing, so.
And I was reading that your dad was a little worried about you going away because you handle so much, you work for him and you keep everything together. So what was his thoughts of you playing the game and watching you?
He was so proud because he was really scared. I tell you, like 2 days before, he's like, I don't know, I don't know. I'm like, but Daddy, I'm gonna be fine. Like, he's like, no, I don't know, I don't know, because he's gonna miss me. He's scared about work, and we talk every day. So I know that was hard for him to not talk to me for so long. And but he absolutely loves the show. Every week calls me, so good, you did so good this week. I love this. So smart, like you're so smart. I don't even know how I would play the game. Like he's like, you guys are so strategic and you have plans. Like, how are you guys coming up with these ideas? So he gave me a lot of props. And on the people I played with, he's like, they're so smart too. Like, this is so crazy. But he is a big fan of the show. He watches it, loves it, and was so happy about my ending speech about him. He was like, it was so beautiful. So yeah.
I love that. Well, it was such a pleasure to watch you on the show, and thank you so much for taking the time coming here. I know my listeners really wanted to hear your perspective as the runner-up, so you'll get them on the next one, but you still slated. What do you got going on that you want to promote, and where can everyone follow you?
Yeah, so everybody can follow me at Monet21. I try to keep the Monet so you guys could find me.
For real?
And then Shane and I are doing content together, so you guys can watch out for that. I have my podcast called Ken of Comedy, where I sit alongside two of my longtime friends who have dads. They're also comedians, where we talk to up and coming comedians and we kind of explain how we feel growing up, sharing the mics with our dad, kind of finding our own way. So yes, those amazing things I am doing right now, and just keep watching out for me. I'll be around.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to leave your Instagram down below and your and Shane's so that everybody can go find you, go follow Jerrica and Monet. Follow both of them. The Monet will come out.
Please.
Yeah, the Monet will
Yes.
come out
Monet
after a
and
few
Jerrica.
drinks.
Monet and Jerrica are the same girl. I promise y'all.
We love it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. Do not forget to subscribe and comment down below your thoughts, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.